I'm really honoured to be asked here tonight to talk to you. I've been invited to talk about how writing has really helped me during my breast cancer experience. I'm not a professional blogger, I'm not a professional writer. I'm just somebody who, whilst going through breast cancer treatment, found writing to be really therapeutic, and I've really found a bit of a passion for writing now. I'm not a public speaker either, so I'm a little bit nervous sitting here. I've got my notes in case I lose track of what I'm saying, so just bear with me if I do. A couple of years ago, someone had said to me, oh, you'll be sitting in a room talking to a bunch of people you don't know about how writing has helped you through a traumatic life experience. Had someone said that to me, I would literally have laughed in their face. I'm not a writer, I'm not a public speaker, so this is slightly out of my comfort zone. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, primary breast cancer, in October 2016. I had the book of treatment thrown at me, like a number of other ladies here, had surgery, all lymph nodes removed from my left side, chemotherapy for 6 months, which was EC and Taxol, radiotherapy, year of Herceptin injections, and now I'm on tamoxifen. And whilst tamoxifen carries on for a number of years to go, the rest of my treatment finished earlier this year in April. I was 42 when I was diagnosed, and like every other 42-year-old wife and mother, I had a very busy life. I was a mum to my 2 children, Archie and Chloe, who were at the time 11 and 9, running our family home and working 4 days a week. I'm a lawyer, I work just down the road. I walked here this evening, so I was working 4 days a week and had a really busy life. I gave up work when I was diagnosed. The treatment hit me really badly, so I couldn't work through it. But in May this year, I went back to work. I've gone back to work 2 days a week, which is much better balance. It does allow me time to focus on the important things in life. So being a mum, being a wife, looking after myself, taking the dog for a walk, and also it does give me a little bit of time to focus on my writing. So I suppose the first question is, what sort of things do I write? What sort of things have I written? It all started last year when I wrote the content for my website, which is called tickingoffbreastcancer.com. It's a site of practical advice and tips for someone going through breast cancer, a whole range of subjects from diagnosis all the way through to life after cancer, covers a range of topics from what your employment rights are, buying a wig, what you can eat to alleviate side effects, that sort of thing. And I launched that in November last year. After writing the content, it probably took me about 6 months towards the end of treatment to write the content for that. I write blog posts for the website now, so I keep up with blog posts. I try and do one a month, but sometimes I don't manage that. Because I'm also writing guest blog posts and articles for cancer organisations and charities. For example, in March this year, I wrote an article for Breast Cancer Care about moving forward after treatment had ended. And I also I write quite a lot of social media posts within the cancer community on social media. And I've written a personal memoir of my whole experience, which is currently with an editor at the moment with a view to being published. So, as you can see, I've written quite a lot. And I suppose the next question is, well, how did I get into all this writing? Because not historically being a writer or having a burning desire to write anything, I don't have a novel inside me that is dying to get out. I'm not a writer. But it all started when I was coming to the end of my chemotherapy, and I started writing some practical notes for a friend of a friend who'd just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she wanted some tips and advice as she was about to embark on her treatment. And so I wrote some practical notes, as I said, all sorts of things for her. And essentially, those notes became the content for the website. And whilst I'm just going to look at my notes now because I've lost my train a bit, but whilst I was writing the content for her, and which ultimately became the website content, whilst I was writing the notes, which ultimately became the website content, I actually found writing it all out was really therapeutic. And let me tell you how it was therapeutic to me. It was two ways. So first of all, what I was doing was taking a really awful experience that was completely out of my control, which was the treatment. So when you go through cancer treatment, those of you here who have done it, all control is taken away from you. And that's really overwhelming and really scary. I found by writing it out and putting it into some sort of structured order on my laptop, I was actually able to regain a bit of control over the situation. It made it seem less overwhelming and less scary. So it actually made me feel a lot better. And the second way that I found it really helpful writing out all this practical content was that I was taking a difficult situation that I'd been through and creating something for other people who are going through the same thing. And I suppose this is along the lines of what we've heard this evening about taking your story and creating a platform for it. So I was taking the treatment that I'd been through, and by creating the website, I was creating a platform for that. And it was all in the hope that it would help people, because when you're going through something as awful as cancer, you're on the receiving end of an awful lot of kindness and support, as you'll all know. And it's really quite overwhelming, the amount of kindness that comes your way. And the whole time I was going through treatment, I kept thinking to myself, if and when I get through this awful treatment and out the other side, I've got to do something to repay this kindness that I've received. And so I suppose part of the thinking behind setting up the website was a way for me to pay forward all that kindness. So whilst writing the content for the website was practical tips and advice, it didn't actually talk about my personal thoughts and feelings. But the articles that I've written for cancer organisations and charities have explored that sort of thing. So, for example, I've written about moving forward after breast cancer treatment for breast cancer care. I've written about what it's like to go through the menopause, which has been induced by chemotherapy when you're only 42. I've written about how exercise became really important to me throughout treatment and after treatment. And I've just written an article about the loneliness of a cancer diagnosis for another cancer charity. And it's writing about those personal thoughts and feelings, which is particularly therapeutic. Not just writing about the practical side of things, which is where the website comes in, but actually writing about my own thoughts and feelings, my observations and reflections about the whole cancer situation. It's writing about all of that that's been most therapeutic for me. And in fact, while I was writing the content for the website, I started to write alongside it more of a personal account. So taking my thoughts and feelings, my emotional ups and downs and all the anxiety, and taking the whole experience, how I felt about it all, what happened at every step of the way, and writing about that. And that's what's been most therapeutic for me. And I suppose the way it's therapeutic is that you're taking a really stressful situation, and in that stressful situation there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of confusion, a lot of stress and difficulties going around in your head, and you're taking all of that and it's coming out of your head and it's going somewhere else, and that's onto the laptop, onto a piece of paper, and that is a much better place for it. And in doing that, you're able to make sense of it. You can read back what you've written. You can actually put some structure to it. And like I did with the content, I was able to take all of those thoughts and emotions that were going around in my head, put them into some sort of structured order, and regain a little bit of control over my life and a little bit of control back over me, and leave it there, written, in the written word. There is a place for the written word as well as for videos, and just leave it all there, and also hopefully create something that other people can read and gain from. You see, I think that when you go through something like cancer, you realise how important it is, and this is what Claudia was just talking about, how important it is to be able to read the accounts of other people who are going through the same thing, because by doing that you feel much less alone. You realise that someone else has felt the same way as you have, someone else has had the same fears that you're having, someone else has worried about the same things as you, someone else has had the same side effects as you. And when you realise that someone else has felt or worried or struggled with the same things that you have, then you feel less alone, and you can take comfort from those accounts. And particularly, you can, when you're going through a really tough time, you can take strength from reading other people's accounts. So whilst I find writing personally very therapeutic, because I'm getting out of my head and onto something else, I also write because I hope that what I'm writing can be read by other people and that it will help them.